accept anything. What am I doing here?
That's great.
So he kind of got roped into being Mr. Glass, and apparently he said every time he sees M. Night Shyamalan, no matter where it is, no matter what it could be, if he's doing like a toast at a wedding and he just sees M. Night Shyamalan, the first thing he says is, "Where the F is our sequel?" Because he wants to make a sequel with Bruce Willis for
Unbreakable,
years.
It's one of M. Night's best movies. I know he's a very polarizing figure in film. I enjoy a lot of his stuff. I love The Sixth Sense. I love Signs. I like The Visit a lot, which came out a few years ago, and I really enjoyed Split. Of course, he had some bombs, Lady in the Water, The Village. They weren't... The Village made a lot of money, but I didn't really care for both of those movies. And, of course, the Avatar, The Last Airbender was a fiasco.
That was terrible.
But I think when he does, a more simpler story, less special effect driven story of character development, I think he's really, really good.
Yeah, and these are characters that he developed close to 20 years ago, if not more.
Yeah, 98, I believe. So, yeah, 20 years ago.
Yeah, 22 years ago or something like that, 23 years ago.
Your math is terrible.
Characters.
Oh, yeah, I guess he wrote it.
Yeah, because he had to write them.
I don't know when the movie came out. It might have been It might have been after The Sixth Sense. Actually,
I want to say 19 years ago.
Yeah, it might have been.
I want to say it was 19 years ago. You looking it up?
Yeah, it was 2000. Okay,
so
it was after The Sixth Sense. 1 year after The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, so it was 18 years ago. 19 years he's probably writing it. So 19 years since he wrote the movie.
Yeah,
and now he gets to go back, revisit characters that he created.
It's a really good. It's one of those first movies that kind of talked about comic books, and really, it is a comic book movie. There's references to so many superheroes in this movie, Unbreakable, and I can't wait to see. I pumped to actually look at the trailer. So I'm gonna
the trailer was really cool. They talked about how how people are infatuated with comic books and superheroes. And the woman was like, "You guys are not superheroes." And Mr. Glass is like, "Oh, I'm more than a superhero." Like it was pretty cool. You should just go and watch it. It's great. I don't like movies that are like that, just like, like here, there, blah, blah, blah. I think it looks great. I think this movie looks pretty good.
Speaking of movies, I saw 2 movies in theaters this week.
Oh, yeah?
And I mentioned Skyscraper with The Rock I saw, and I also saw the movie Sorry to Bother You, which was a very strange movie, to say the least. So let's start off with the more simpler Skyscraper. Did you happen to see Skyscraper, Joe?
I saw half of it and I fell asleep.
So you illegally watched it?
What? No. Go ahead.
I enjoyed Skyscraper. I thought it's the most predictable movie I've seen in quite a while. As soon as one character's name was mentioned, I said to myself, I was having the time of my life watching this movie. I was the loud jerk in the movie theater. I was going, woo! I was laughing at scenes that shouldn't have been laughed at. I was all by myself, and I was having such a fun time.
That's always the best.
It was a sold-out show, believe it or not. And it was sold out because the movie theaters today are so small.
Right.
Because they have the big seats, there's assigned seats. There's probably only like 70 people, if even, in this theater. And it was a sold-out show. I had to sit in the handicap seats. So I love this movie, but it's so predictable. As soon as one character's name was mentioned, I said to myself, that's the bad guy. He's going to be a bad guy. I know he's going to be a bad guy. And listen, I'm spoiling the movie. He ended up being a bad guy.
Who?
It was like his friend.
Oh, okay.
He mentioned his buddy's name, and then I was like, that guy's the bad guy. And he wasn't even the main bad guy. But the movie is super simple. It's just the story about this super futuristic building that is made in Tokyo. It's got, top-of-the-line technology. And The Rock... who you see in the beginning of the movie loses his leg to... I'm not going to spoil all of it, but he becomes a...
is it good or bad? Just tell us it's good or bad.
It was really fun. I enjoyed it. Is it a good movie? No, but it was a fun movie. So The Rock loses his leg, and that's kind of, not really touched upon too much. It's a handicap for him, but... It's just another plot point of the movie. But the film is he becomes the head of like a security system, a security team, and he has to approve of this building's security. And there's plot twist after plot twist, and basically the building gets caught on fire with terrorist inside of it and his family, and The Rock needs to get into this building that is essentially impenetrable, and he gets in, and Die Hard essentially happens. But it's good. It's a very, very fun movie. Couldn't recommend it more if you just want to have your mind off and enjoy a film for an hour and 40 minutes. But the movie that I saw last night is also...
You all right there?
I've just been talking for so long. The movie I saw last night was also, pretty short. It was under 2 hours, but it's called Sorry to Bother You, and this is produced by Jordan Peele, who did, obviously, Key and Peele, and he did the big hit last year, which was... What was the movie last year?
Get Out.
Get Out, yeah.
Get
Out. It's that company that's doing it, so it's going to have some weird things going on. I'll say this. The movie's an hour, 45 minutes long. An hour, 25 minutes into this movie, arguably the strangest plot twist I have ever seen in the history of movies happens in this film.
Really?
The strangest thing happens. You ever seen the movie From Dusk Till Dawn?
Yes.
It's a movie starring George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino, and it just starts off as...
Oh, yes.
Like that movie...
With, what's her name? Salma Hayek. Yeah.
So that movie has an extreme strange twist as well. It's this heist movie or whatever type of movie it is, and then it just switches into a vampire movie like halfway through the film. It's something like that happens in this movie. It's Sorry to Bother You. It was a good movie. I thought it was very full of itself. There was a lot of symbolism, a lot of hipstery stuff. I want to look up
what this twist is.
I would just watch the movie because it is...
I'm not going to watch this movie.
It's insanity. It's a really good movie. I mean, it has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think you would enjoy the movie. It's very satirical. It's got a RoboCop feel to it as far as the comedy goes. Some of it's really, really funny, and then some of it's just really, really strange. I would recommend it, but if you want to think, it's definitely a thinking movie as opposed to Skyscraper. I saw basically two completely opposite movies back to back, Saturday and Sunday, but Skyscraper was good. So was Sorry to Bother You. Definitely check out both of them. Anything, what did you do, Joe? What, are you looking up the plot?
Yeah, I was just reading it. There's some weird stuff going on there. Not really much. I've been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild again lately.
Great
Replaying
game.
that game. Loving every second of it. Apparently, one of the big games going on right now is No Man's Sky. They've been continuing to work on the game since it's been broken, and apparently it's actually pretty good right now, or pretty playable now. Not good, but playable is like the key word. That and getting ready for the new World of Warcraft add-on that's coming out early. I think it's like August 11th, I want to say, or 15th, somewhere around there, within those 5 days or 4 days. Just playing, watching, some old movies. Real quick, actually, I want to mention, speaking of old movies, you were talking about Saving Private Ryan before. Yeah. One of the best war films ever, without a doubt. The Normandy invasion scene is one of the most accurate, real-to-life things ever. That's probably as legit as it can get. I know my great-grandfather told the story years before they made that movie. He told that story exactly how they wrote it. Not to say that, they stole it from him or anything, but, basically they captured everything that my great-grandfather would talk about the beaches of Normandy. That's exactly what the movie was like. It's almost like to a T. It's almost like, Steven Spielberg heard it or something. Yeah. It was like, yep, that's exactly what we want to do. So it's one of the most real-to-life things ever. As soon as they're done with Normandy, the second they walk onto mainland France, the movie becomes totally, fairy tale. And I think that's where the movie goes downhill. I mean, I like the movie. It's completely. But I think the best part is definitely the storming of Normandy. It's not that bad. One of the best scenes ever is when they meet Paul Giamatti at the town, and they have the sniper battle. Is awesome to watch when Vin Diesel dies. Spoiler alert. I think that's a great scene. I think it's really cool, like everything that happens. But it just goes straight downhill. All the realism and everything, and this was based on a true story, but it wasn't. Didn't go down quite the way that they make it sound like it did, or make it look like it did. And the town they created is fake for the final battle. and a lot of dumb things that didn't need to happen. Like, everyone could have survived that final battle, honestly, in if we're being real here. You know, it just took someone to, you know, realize what was going on and just call for reinforcements. You could have had guys there in 20 minutes. Because, you know, you're in the middle of France during an invasion when there's Allied troops in every major city. It would take 20 minutes for guys to get there. If that was such a pivotal city to the Allied invasion, they would have hundreds, not 1,000 guys there to defend it. They had hundreds of men in every city, thousands in Paris. Like, they did not cheap out on this invasion. So the fact that you would think, oh yeah, that town's so pivotal, but whatever, the Allies just forgot about it when they were continuing. Like, no, they wouldn't have. That would never have happened. But, you know, just those are minor details, very minor. The movie's great from start to finish. I could watch it and enjoy it. You know, if you ask me, oh, how accurate is it? It's pretty good. It's like 80%.
That's pretty high for you.
That's really high for me. You know, the 20% is basically like the end, just drops off. But, you know, everything else about this movie, the weapons, you know, the outfits, the tactics, everything about that is so well done. And, you know, I would love to see them continue to do more. They were saying that Tom Hanks is going to be, like, helping to produce more, because Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, when they get together, put on some hell of a good war movies, hell of a good historical movies.
They did the show Band of Brothers,
which is an amazing show.
Love it.
One of my favorites. I always, after July 4th, go on a binge, watch every episode of that. The Pacific is also an amazing show.
Yeah, definitely, I heard that was good.
Definitely should watch The Pacific. It just shows you that if you compared the two, the guys in The Pacific definitely had it really a lot worse than anyone makes out. You know, anyone talks about. So, you know, you gotta respect that. And just great shows, totally accurate. Everything about it, the detail that they go to for research and everything is great.
Aren't they doing something big together? Aren't they doing a war thing? Another one, Spielberg and Hanks?
I'm sure they are. They are always working together. And that's the best thing about these two, is they sit there and they do their research. And I love that about them. I love the fact that they don't just pump stuff out to pump stuff out. These two guys are so successful that they will wait 5-10 years to get everything right and then push everything out.
I haven't been the biggest fan of Spielberg stuff recently. He's my favorite director of all time, but, you know, a lot of his dramas, to me, they're just not my cup of tea. Movies like Lincoln, not really a fan of.
Listen, every time Spielberg and Hanks get together and they make movies like that and they produce together and they want to do... I'm dead set that if you would have put Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg with Christopher Nolan on Dunkirk, that would have been the greatest war movie of all time.
Instead of Christopher Nolan?
No. Christopher Nolan directs it, but Tom Hanks and Spielberg produce the movie. The two of them are like, do the research.
Yeah.
They're like the executive producers. If the three of those guys made Dunkirk, that might have been that might be the greatest war movie of all time.
I wasn't really a fan of Dunkirk.
I'm not either, but I'm saying with those guys with those two guys sitting there saying we need to get everything right to the smallest detail, because that's what they do, which is great. You know, the only really small detail they got wrong are the boats in Saving Private Ryan, but we'll get over that for today. You know, they get as much right as you could get right trying to make movies for money. You know, they're not passion projects. They're trying to make money off these movies, and they do a great job. Them with Nolan would have been an amazing collaboration. One day, hopefully, we could see it.
I'm not the biggest fan of Christopher Nolan. Speaking of Nolan, real quick, it was the 10-year anniversary of The Dark Knight, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. But, you know, Nolan's other work, I'm not really the biggest fan of. Interstellar, didn't care for. Dunkirk, as you mentioned, wasn't a fan of.
I think Christopher Nolan's got good... He's a
Inception is super overrated.
Yes, I'm not a big fan of Inception. But, yeah, that's about it for us then.